Sorry, of course. Thank you. So let's see. Any further discussion on translation and deadlines for that? Very good work on this. Let's see. We should go now to perhaps, Ula, should we go to themes for seminars and webinars?
Yeah, we do.
Nancy,
Yes.
I have a question about the statement.
Yes, Leah.
Should we get signatures only from organizations, or do we also signatures from individuals? Because that makes a big difference.
Well, you know, I have never done this before myself. I think perhaps we could hear from Anne or Medea. I think organizations as well as individual signatures. But Anne, I see Anne, thank you.
Yes, I think you're right. We should try to do organizations as endorsers and then individuals to sign on to the statement. And then maybe someone could collect the endorsements as, individuals write to their organizations and will you endorse this, and then send them into a central point, and we can add that to the statement later on and show how many organizations have actually endorsed it. And just the numbers of organizations that we on this call represent, that is a lot of good organizations right there. So we're off to a really good start on it.
Yeah. So Anne, is there a, there must, I've seen, I mean, I've of course signed these myself, but there must be a template or an example of how to write that, that kind of document up for asking for organizational and individual signatures. I know that Code Pink's used it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there is. I don't know quite what it is, but I think Medea and Code Pink could help us out on that, as well as David Swanson and they both know how to do that.
So we need to reach out and really. So when would we? So we would want the full statement accepted by by us, and then we would of course put the statement in the document and then have this text. So when, just strategically, when should we want to be sending out the notice to endorse? Would we want to do that by June? I know there's a lot going on in June with the summit, but would we want to do it after the summit?
Well, I think we should go ahead and just as soon as the statement's ready, we can start putting the statement on petitions, both World Beyond War or Roots Action and Code Pink and others could do that, and then put that template that has both individual and organizational on it. So I think the sooner the better.
I see. Okay.
Could I come in?
Yes, please.
Could Anne and Medea and David and me, I have no ID, so we have to trust those who can do this. Do this as soon as we have all the translations. Then we start going.
Well, I think one of the problems of putting all the translations in on one petition, we'll have to ask David and others. It may be that we need to create a website, or on our website, that's where we put all of the translations. And then we put a link to the website in the petition saying, if you would like to sign in these languages, go to this link or read this link to get the translations. But trying to get everybody to sign on to the one master or, a smaller number of petitions is probably easier. But
I would think. Is Medea still on the call? I don't see that she is. Well, I can
Still
talk
on the
with,
call. I
excuse
mean,
me,
Medea's listed on the call. She may have stepped away.
Medea, are you on the call still? Are you listening to this conversation? I see she's there.
Could we
Uh,
just agree that Anne and
yeah.
Medea and David think about it, and then we, as soon as we have a plan, we start moving?
So
Medea's
do you,
in the chat,
and
but
you
she can't
mentioned,
speak.
and you mentioned having a website. Do you think we need a website for this? It's getting more and more complicated.
Yeah, it is. You know, if we could,
There's a note in the chat from Kate Hudson about having a web page. Medea
Yes.
says that she is here but cannot speak.
I see that. Yeah. Yes, we do
so
need
there-
a web page with statement text in the function. Yes, and links to translations. I think that's very important, actually. Yes. So, do we have talent among this group who can do a website?
I think that is what Connor from IPB meant, that they could help us from IPB with
For
the
doing an
website.
actual website.
Yeah, I can check it with him.
Okay, please do. Okay, so then, well, that was a productive conversation. Very grateful. Should we go then to theme? So you're going to follow up with that, Ula, is that correct?
Yes.
And I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Yes, fine. Wonderful.
And so should we go to themes for seminars and webinars? And this you were proposing would take place on the Saturday and Sunday. Now, Saturday, yeah.
Saturday and Sundays, and that depends, of course, on how the webinars are, the webinar groups, because I think the most important thing is now that we have the groups. A European group working on the physical seminar, maybe on European issues, or shall we combine US and European issues? But we need working groups.
Ula,
And
Nancy,
yeah.
I think we've moved on without answering a question that Maria Bodie put in, is will we have a final reading of the text for approval? And I think, you know, if that is going to be a thing for a final
Yes,
reading, when does that happen? We want it out as soon as possible. How does it get approved?
That's very important. Yes. Thank you, Marie, for raising that.
Should we have a final reading, or should we send it out as soon as it's ready and give a timeline of, let's say, 3 days to come in with comments?
And not have another face-to-face meeting?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's unimportant. We don't have a face-to-face meeting. I think her suggestion, Ulla's suggestion, is very good.
Okay. So when we get the final draft, we'll then send it out and set a time limit, maybe 3 days for approval or any final edits. Is that what we would say?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, and then I see that Kate has here, we don't need a whole website, just a page that can be linked to from other sites or from social media. I'm sure IPB and others can help. That's a good suggestion, Kate. Let's see. So Ria is suggesting a side event for those who have time left, a visit to the statue for the unknown wartime women. Peace needs women in Leuven, 20 minutes from Brussels by train. The statue tells a story of all of us women working on peace and care for each other. That's an interesting idea. All right, so I do think the next important issue to discuss here are themes for seminars and webinars. And Ula, you were mentioning that maybe working groups of on specific topics might be useful here. So how do we arrange this by working groups? I know that, for example, I think Patricia in Italy is very interested in depleted uranium weapons, and maybe we could talk about other kinds of weapons used in this war, drones.
Nancy,
Yes,
there are
please.
quite a few hands up, Nancy.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see them. I'm looking at the document rather than hands, sorry. Thank you.
Lena, Scabby, and I see our hands.
Okay, Lena?
There, yeah.
Leah?
Oh, that was my old hand.
I see. Okay, and
Running these seminars. So very briefly, I think that those people who are presenting here, those who have some kind of knowledge and information about any of these issues that is up here, could take a responsibility to organize some. And I know that Ria is certainly interested about the DU weapons, and someone else maybe of something others.
I would think Agneta, it'd be nice, it would be very good to have some panel on keep space for peace. Skeve, and then Teresa.
A few comments. One on the document. If there is no big oppositions about the text and the political issue of the document, we can go on and reply by email that we agree or we have something to change. About the technology and how to support our work in online webinar and other, I can ask the young women in my organization to help us, because I am not that good. They are very good. So I can ask them whether they can support and give us some proposals of how to work. As far as regional webinars, we can have different regional, so we can discuss how NATO affect the region. But the discussion in the European Parliament must be central for world, not for European countries only. Just to clarify a few things, maybe I didn't understand them. That's
So
it.
it's, yes. So it seems to me that if this is going to work by having a meeting in the European Parliament, it's important to know how many women would be able to attend that. And if there's a space there where you're going to have a discussion, then I think there needs to be a draft of what the elements of that discussion are going to be. Partly because, as we know now, there's a move of NATO into Japan, and there's a move of NATO into Latin America, and you know, other plans that we really need to discuss, and not just be totally focused on the European countries and NATO's expansion east there. So we have to really call out what is you know, what is NATO's real agenda here. So I think I don't know how we begin to discuss what the event of the European Parliament is going to look like.
Could I come in?
Yes, please, Ula.
I think that
I
we
was
should.
next, actually, Ula. I was
Sorry.
Oh,
next,
sorry,
actually.
sorry.
Sorry, Teresa, go ahead.
Well, I think this discussion of webinars without us addressing the issue of inclusion and diversity is a bit premature. And the process, it seems to me, should be taking proposals. Anne has indicated a number of suggestions. And so this agenda, Ula, is shaped up as a 3-hour agenda. I'm not sure how many of us have the time to do a 3-hour meeting via Zoom. And so in terms of how this meeting is organized, I think it looks like there should be some working groups and reports in because we have quite a few representatives from the US. There may be multiple representatives from other countries. The key thing is for us to have as many women there as possible. It looks like we would have several women from the US possibly. I think we could probably get women from Africa based on us reaching out to the president of WILF, who's in Cameroon. So these are the kinds of organizational things I think need to happen so that we wouldn't be doing or trying to do a 3-hour meeting. And it's just too big an agenda, really, because some things just can't be decided in this meeting.
Yes, good, thank you.
That's just my suggestion, Nancy,
Yeah,
for going forward.
yeah,
Because I know I need to leave in 30 minutes. I had planned 90 minutes for the
Yeah.
meeting.
yeah,
So thank you.
yes, good. Well, I do see some ideas, proposals coming forward here in the chat, so that's very good that we brought this up. And we can follow up with these by contacting some of the people that we know also could put together a webinar or a panel. Teresa, do you want to reach out to your colleagues in Africa, WILF colleagues?
Yeah, I'll reach out to Sylvie, the
Yes.
president of WILF, because we're
Okay.
in contact on Facebook and other ways. So I know she would want to know about this.
Okay, good, thank you. So
Thank you.
let's go to Franziska first, and then we'll go to Ula.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ula, I did not mean to skip the line ahead of you.
No, no, no,
Um,
no.
I have one brief question. I would like to understand a little bit better whether we should be focusing on in-person participation in Brussels, which then will perhaps be, this is the technical part, will be streamed or in some way transmitted to the rest of the world? Or are we more thinking towards creating what is being called a webinar where we have Zoom participation, etc. For us, this question is a bit important. Ula knows, she invited me here from the IPA. There had been discussion. I'm the poor substitute for Mika, who some of you might remember from her contribution in Madrid. So from the IPA, we want to contribute and we want to help, and we definitely want to also reach out to our African organization, North Africa and Southern Africa. And so for us, it would be a bit important to understand better what we should be focusing on. The in-person being there, or just, sorry, and I don't mean it judgmentally, just experts who will join a Zoom meeting from their office in some African country or from some African organization involved in peace work. That would be a good clarification. And either way is okay, but that would be very helpful for us to be able to reach out also in terms of resources and time, et cetera, like what would be the more useful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Francisca, it was exactly that what we discussed last meeting. The problem is, of course, that everybody isn't every time online. So I think we have to discuss a physical meeting in Europe on the European questions, and maybe a physical meeting if very many are coming from the US on the US-Canada questions. And for that, we need 2 working groups. And for the Global South and for Indo-Pacific, we would have webinars, but it would be great to have it in such a form that the moderator of the webinar would be physically there in Brussels, so that we have a physical moderator and then the webinar, but also in the form that the audience in Brussels could come in with questions. So I would suggest that Francisca and Teresa, I'll put you together, and Michaela, if she can be reached somehow, and if there are others in the group, could now start with the webinar on Global South. And Cora has already been working on the Indo-Pacific. Maybe she could work together with Anne on that
Yes.
question, and
Yes.
that would be a webinar. And then the ones from the US can decide amongst yourself, is it physical or is it a webinar? And the European group discuss the European question. Would that be okay? Could it be Anne on the Indo-Pacific together with Cora? Is it yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And could then it's Teresa and Francisca at least on the Global South. Then we have the US. That would be would it be you again, Anne, together with Nancy and Teresa?
Well, I was Global South. I think we need to talk about Latin America. I've been trying to work with Beatrice in Costa Rica. And then, of course, we have these connections with Africa. So I think we need 2 different groups.
Okay, we would have one on Global South, but would we include Costa Rica there? Or would that be another webinar?
Well, I'm hoping that she will take this up and work with me on reaching out to others in Latin America.
So then we would have Latin America separately.
I think so, but we'll have
One
to wait.
working group for Latin America.
We'll have to wait and see, but I would like to put that group together.
Okay, fantastic.
But I
And
want to intervene here. Cora, how come
Yes.
that you talk about Latin America in this content? I mean, what we are facing now is the war with the US and China. We are there now, and you come from the Philippines. I mean, where should we be geographically? South Korea is overwhelmed, and Japan with bases, and there are still ongoing war preparation around your coast.
Yeah, I agree with
you
what
know.
you're saying, Agneta, but I was not the one who mentioned about, about Latin America. So
Okay,
I
don't
think,
know.
of course you are
Agneta,
right. It's not that. But
Agneta,
I
I
mean,
think we have to trust each other. We have Global South group. We might have we have the Indo-Pacific group. We have the US group, and we have the South America group. And we have to trust the groups that they are doing their best on the issue, because
yeah,
we have
but
so
the
little time.
Indo-Pacific group is extremely important. That's what I would like to say.
Yes, it
Yes,
is
of
really
course.
important. But it is there. Anne will be there. She is a real good in the Pacific, and Cora, and they will add others to that group.
Good.
When I send out the minutes, you will see it. But the US group, could we is Anne going to put it together, or Nancy?
I can help. We can put Medea on it also.
And Maria, fantastic.
I'm actually out of commission from May 21st to June 8th. So with no links, Wi-Fi links. So quite a bit of work on putting the US webinar, for example, together might need to be done by Ann Medea, and I can jump in when I return on June 8th. And of course, I know you're all busy with the Peace Summit as well.
But Ann and Medea can certainly find other US women. I trust you.
Yes. So let's see. So we're coming up on 90 minutes here. So of course, the issue of the Global South is in Latin America. Of course, NATO is moving into Colombia and has great designs with the US on Latin America. So I do think if we can include maybe the Indo-Pacific topic in focusing on the expansion of NATO could include, if I don't hear back very much from Beatrice, maybe that could include NATO's expansion. I don't know if that adds too much to the Indo-Pacific. That, after all, is a large topic now. So let's see. I see Cora's hand is up.
Yeah, I just want to, say that for the Indo-Pacific, Anne is part of that as well, and some other women in Australia and the New Zealand. There is a speaking tour coming up in July, August, and there will be speakers from Guam, hopefully Hawaii, and Okinawa. And part of the whole thing, like a week of action, part of that is we're calling it a mini conference at this point. Yeah. To talk about AUKUS, to talk about, and part of that really is to bring the discourse on NATO, because we know for sure that even the talisman saver that's going to happen in late July and August would involve a significant number of NATO forces that will be joining the big military exercises. 33,000 US troops from different parts of the world will be joining that military exercise and war games. And have I think initiated a discussion about two-step webinars. That's basically within the Pacific Peace Network. The first one is going to be in July, which covers voices from the Pacific, particularly those communities that are hosting military bases and facilities. And the second step is July 15. That basically covers more on the situation in Australia, Talisman Sabre, including RIMPAC, because these two military exercises, the biggest in the region, are connected. So we're trying to connect those two big issues, and we have proposed to invite a speaker. Hopefully, it would be Ula, to speak on NATO in the second part on July 15. These two meetings are basically part of the build-up for the mini conference and the events in Australia. So since you're proposing another, that should be part of what's going to happen in Brussels, that's something that we could discuss in the coming days. I know Anne is here and several other people. Because of the lateness of this of this meeting that we are having now, much as our friends from New Zealand, Australia, and the rest of the Pacific, it's just not possible. But we are bringing, I think, including their voices as we are, Anne and I are here in this meeting.
Nancy, are you there?
Nancy stepped away. I see
Okay.
hands that are up, but I don't know if I can help because I was on a different screen. I don't know the
Okay.
correct order, but I see Maria, Cora, and Teresa, in addition to you, Ula.
Good. Maria.
Yes, sorry, I'm coming in from the deep end as well because this is my first meeting. But just listening to all the women and the input so far, I just feel that maybe our efforts are too spread out, and that maybe we would benefit better if we had like one central event in Brussels, for example, if that's what we're thinking about, and then have a major conference with an activity with the European Parliament, and then a demonstration and a conference for the women, but bringing into that conference the different voices from the different regions of the world. Maybe that, I don't know if that that resonates with some of you, but maybe then we could really sort of galvanize our efforts in terms of what we want to achieve, because I think that to have a presence in the European Parliament is very important, and I don't know how much work has been done with the European left in the European Parliament, because like they have, I think, 23 or 25 member parties of the European left. So I don't know what efforts we've made in terms of getting them involved, getting them to endorse our initiative, and maybe even themselves sort of organizing an event for us inside the European Parliament. Because like we've had experiences in doing that before, and it really helped a lot that our activity was endorsed by members of the European left. So they themselves provided the space, provided the organization, the translation, and everything in the European Parliament. So that's one. And then the second would be a big event for all of us to come together. So bringing the voices of women from all over the world, from the US, from Asia and the Pacific, and so on, to really address the issue of NATO as, being the central focus of our discourse in terms of, the impact and so on, with regards to the position paper and our positions on the different issues related to NATO. So how does NATO affect the global South, and so on and so forth. So I would feel that maybe that, and then a demonstration, a public event, where we try to also bring in young people to, distribute our materials to the general public in Brussels and so on, where we try to, bring this to people's attention in terms of why we are involved in peace building as women. So that's just my coming in from the deep end comments. Sorry.
Well, I'll just say this, in the context of mass movement building, because that's what we have to be about in each of our countries. And the fact that Finland is now a part of NATO, that cannot get lost on us, of that horrific event that would happen. So in the US, we have a special obligation, and I see that because we are in the empire. So I'm just, there's so many ideas here. But those of us who are in the US who are connected with WILF International, where there are 52 sections around the world, we can connect with WILF International Secretariat. And I've sent a message to the WILF president, Sylvie, so that she understands the importance of this planning process, but not losing sight on the fact that we're part of a larger global movement that says no to NATO. And we are really in the power analysis, we are really not doing well because NATO is growing and getting bigger and it's everywhere. And we have to build our movement beyond July. And so this event in July is an event, but our connection should be clear that we're moving beyond that for the long haul. And so I think what Maria was suggesting about all of the elements of inclusion is what we have to, because I think it can be much bigger, Ula, than was initially thought some weeks ago. And so I think there are others in the global South who could make it to Brussels. So I just think I'm ready to think big and see what we can grow so that on the ground there in their faces, we are real clear that we're strong. And that's what seems to be important to do in addition to the inclusion in the hybrid virtual world. So, but we have to figure out a better way to use the time we have together. And I think the side meetings and working groups are important, Ula, because we have only so much time that we can devote to a meeting of this type. We're down to 25 people now when we were 34 earlier. So people are having to leave. So I think if the meeting, Ula, is planned for 90 minutes, that may be an efficient way of dealing with this time we have together. And those of us in the US, particularly in the strong organizations like Veterans for Peace and Code Pink and WILF, that we can come together and figure some things out in the US. Because Anne is truly a person that I think we can lean on for the No to NATO clarity. And so I think we can figure some things out with Anne and Medea and others. Medea said in the chat, world beyond war would be key. So we know that that's key for us to kind of connect with. They do have a reach around the world. So those are the kinds of things I think we have to think about organizationally, Ula, so that we use this time efficiently as we're getting ready for what is 2 months away. 2 months away, not long. Thank you, Nancy. I'm done. Thank you.
Nancy's still away. Ula, you're the only hand that's up right now.
Oh, yes. First of all, to Maria Ledesma, the whole thing is about NATO. We don't talk now about the Ukraine war. We talk about NATO because that is in our name. We should only concentrate on NATO. Also that NATO is the reason for the Ukrainian war, of course. But then the European Parliament and Skevi, I would say that I have been to the European Parliament several times, and I think the idea would be that we just have a discussion. We bring our statement and we discuss what we can do together in order to stop this insanity, to get also the MEPs involved in getting a way for us to cooperate and not having like a seminar. The seminars would be outside the parliament where we also can invite the public, I think. And then for the working groups, I have always been wanting the working groups because that makes everything so much easier. And I'm thankful to Ada and the working group for having had this statement for us. And the other working groups, the street theater working group is not here today, I'm sorry. And we will have the working group for the premises. And we have, because we have so little time left, I have to send out an email about the working group for the European section. And for the US section, I forgot to say that I think Canada should be included in that, and if that's okay. So you take, I don't know, Tamara or Marie Botti with you in the group. I will send out the notes from the meeting and take this up. And then you have to discuss, is it physical or is it webinar, as for the others. So it would be the Thursday, like discussions with the members of parliament, what they are going to do, and maybe going to the commission. And then we would have the webinars on Saturday and Sunday, and the seminar, the physical seminars, and trying to integrate as many as possible. I will send out the working groups, and you have to add if I have forgotten something, because now we haven't recorded the chat. I'm sorry, I didn't see that also, George. But I think that we have to go on this way. And the side events, I saw that Ria was suggesting a side event. Everybody who suggests a side event has to arrange it themselves, because we have not a capacity to do more. We are already overloaded and so soon exploded. And I think that the Vrede in Belgium are also planning for the evening of Saturday some kind of side event where men would also be allowed. And they asked me also, and I said it, I didn't say it earlier, the statement should of course not be restricted to only women to sign. Is that right? Men should also have the right to sign. And the same goes, of course, for the physical events in Brussels, that men would be allowed to come in. Isn't that so? Yes, okay. Thank you. I will send out the notes, and you can then contact me if something is wrong.
I muted you, Nancy, because there was sound in the background of your house. You're talking but muted, Nancy. Got to unmute.
Yeah, so sorry. I was very interrupted by some business I had to attend to. I was wondering if we haven't really mentioned climate issues here, and we haven't really mentioned move the money to human needs. And I wonder if we want to make that more. I'll have to read the statement again and see if that is in the statement strong enough, perhaps, that we want to focus on the cost of war and also on the impact on climate.
Nancy, could
yes.
I comment?
Yes, please.
I think it's on the themes which we have. We have the 7 themes. Yeah. And when the working groups are planning their seminars, they should actually plan in these themes.
Okay.
So that we have them there in every seminar, we touch the issues. Or at least one group, in the Pacific would have the poverty, move the money. And so we should see how, when we see how the working groups, what programs they come up with, we see what is uncovered.
Okay. So actually this begins to be a sort of follow-up from the Peace Summit in June, the Peace Summit that's being planned in Vienna, where there are a number of topics and working groups, et cetera, then this in the end really is a sort of follow-up on that.
Now, this is actually a follow-up in that sense that NATO is responsible for the wars.
Yes,
But yeah, in Vienna, they are discussing more how to end the war in Ukraine and how to move on. And in order to move on, we have to send NATO out of the planet.
right, right. So I mean, this, the framing of these webinars can highlight that more directly as a kind of follow-up of what the Peace Summit has discussed. So maybe it's time to, I see some people are having to leave, so maybe it's time to close this out. Are there any more? I see Cora, is your hand up again? Thank you.
And my hand up has been up for a
Yeah,
minute.
George, so sorry,
Oh,
George.
Sorry. So shall I go ahead? Just
Yes,
very
please.
quickly to call your attention that I have pasted the program of the summit in Vienna. And you know, the whole program, this is the updated one. And there are opportunities there, workshops and meetings and networking. And the other link I pasted is the 24-hour Peace Wave that's
Yeah.
going to happen about the same time as our NATO conference. So in terms of, I remember Ula also saying if there could be one of the segments that could be used as dedicated for NATO, that could be arranged with IPB, particularly Sean or Theo, yeah, because they're the ones trying. So they're trying to finalize the designs of these 12 segments that will go around the world. So you can pick it up from there, Ula. That's all.
So I just wanted to make some comments about the meeting in general and our next agenda. I don't know when that will be, but I was looking at the agenda, knowing that, you know, good Lord, this is 6 pages. Oh my goodness. But the things that may take more time that we haven't touched on today, maybe can be resolved or discussed over email. Just work outside on the yard here. But street actions, if there are going to be street actions, planning those and organizing those is a can't wait kind of situation. So I just wanted to raise the flag that if you want street actions, that discussion and decisions and actual planning and organizing may not be something you want to hold on for the next meeting. There are also suggestions on that agenda, like something about a Nobel Prize or things that felt extra, but we didn't talk about because we didn't get to them, and they may take time to put in place. Just raising the flag that if there's something that's going to require some time to put in place, some organizing that we haven't done, some contact of people that have not yet been contacted, don't delay on working on that. And I will send out the recording and the chat to everyone who registered.
Thank you, George. So let's see. Any other hands before we leave here? Well, I thank you all for being on this Zoom and for the very good discussion and plans going forward.
Nancy, is there a
Excuse me.
date for the next meeting? I'd like to be able to tell Sylvie and possibly others.
Well, let's look at the calendar.
You
I
you
think-
said that you were busy
after our last
until,
meeting.
2 weeks.
Yes, sorry, Teresa.
Nancy said she was busy until sometime in early June. Do we need to wait until then, or?
No, of course not. No, I'm not free again. I'm busy from the 20th of May to the 8th of June. So
2 weeks is the 18th.
2 weeks is the 18th. That's fine. Then somebody will, I would like to invite somebody to be facilitator while I'm gone. I'll come back on June 8th and can help out then.
Is 2 weeks enough for people to get the tasks or responsibilities or contacts that you needed to do from this meeting done? The people you need to call, the logistics that you need to set up, the budget numbers you need to get. Can you get those in 2 weeks?
Well, I think we need to start getting that information together. I think in particular, we're going to have the translation, then the final document and a vote on that. Then we need the translations, and then we need to set up the
Web page.
and the petition. I think that's very important to really work on. And then we can reach out with the other working groups and really start getting them working together and getting that information then available for the next agenda. I think it's very important that we keep moving forward.
If there are any other people we want invited into this process, that's an ASAP, as soon as possible task, because you don't want to leave people out last minute, ask them to, invite them in at the last dang minute.
That's right. That's right. So I think we made a lot of progress today, but there are a lot of things that need to be done to move this forward in 2 weeks. So Ula will put together the notes and work up the working groups. I'll be happy to work with you on that. And maybe I should talk with Anne and Medea and maybe reach out to David Swanson about how we put this petition together. I've never done it before, so a little help on that would be very useful. So does that sound like a plan?
Ula, you're gonna send us off?
I see Ula.
Yeah, I suggest that I send tomorrow or day after tomorrow out the working groups, and that they have come with their suggestions for the next meeting, that we already then have a kind of plan for the different webinars from the different working groups. And I will send out this draft as soon as I get it from Ada, draft proposal, so that it can be sent out to everybody with 3 days notice to react. And then we can send the proposal to Anne and the ones who talk with Medea and David to go on with that. But we need a date for the next meeting. And the 18th is a kind of a feast or religious whatever in the Nordic countries at least. So I think we could, people go on a longer vacation for that period.
Well, how about the 17th? How about the day before?
Yeah, the day before. How about that?
Yeah.
9 a.m. I mean, the same time as this call.
Is it impossible for you, Cora? Could we move it one? Is it easier if we take it at?
No, I think this 9 o'clock our time, because it's also 9 o'clock Eastern.
Right.
Okay.
Or
So
I
it's
don't know
just
with
now 11
Anne.
at your house.
Anne, how is the time with you?
Anne is the one.
Well, I'm
It must
sorry.
be like 6 a.m. or something for Anne.
Yeah, the 17th at 9 a.m. Eastern time is fine with me.
Okay, great.
That's amazing. Okay. I'll set it up.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, everybody, very much. So I'm so sorry I had to leave the meeting there, and I guess Ula, you proceeded.
Yes, we did.
Good,
And
thank you, George.
And this time we made the statement, which took time, and that we will not have next time. So that's great.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you, everybody, and see you on the 17th. And meanwhile, there's lots to do.
17th or 18th?
17th.
Okay.
Wednesday.
All
Many
right.
blessings all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.